Do you ever have a week that just knocked you off your feet and left you wondering, what just happened? That was my week. I had specific plans, everything was organized, and I got some of it done, but not quite everything I wanted in the timeline that I had set. And then I got mad at myself. And then I got mad at getting mad at myself. Not helpful. What's interesting is that so much of my work involves coaching and counseling people. And often I hear myself saying the words, you need to give yourself grace, a moment without pressure or judgment when things did not go as you planned. In sessions, I encourage people to not beat themselves up when things don't go right. I talk about reevaluating, reworking, replanning, finding a different way for things to land. And yet this week, I wasn't doing that for myself. I was just pushing. And when I missed something, I pushed harder. It felt like I was stacking tiny little blocks, one on top of another, without paying attention to how high the blocks were getting. Until one final thing, something that had nothing to do with my planning capabilities, knocked them all down. And when the blocks fall down, sometimes they fall hard. But in truth, sometimes they need to fall. Because when they fall, we get to take a look at how we stack them in the first place. We get to evaluate that maybe the structure we built for the week wasn't as sound as we thought. Or that a hurricane that blew through our lives was a Category 5 and there was nothing we could do no matter how strong the foundation was built. Sometimes life simply happens and we need to take time to reflect on the happening and figure out which source it was. A shaky foundation or a Cat 5 hurricane. And in truth, the plan that worked beautifully one week doesn't always work the next. Which is why I believe so strongly in customizing your time, not copying someone else's system, not rigidly sticking to something that no longer fits for you, but adjusting according to what is actually happening in your life. Earlier today, I would have advocated for something stronger, but cooler heads prevail, and I encourage you to grab a good cup of coffee, tea, or one of those lovely sparkling waters they have available now with a hint of flavor. I love the lime myself. So today, I want to talk about the tension we put ourselves under. The kind where the blocks are precariously perched, swaying back and forth, waiting for one more thing to hit. The balance between giving yourself grace when things don't go as planned and still completing the tasks that simply need to get done. Because oftentimes we live in a world that tells us it's one way or the other. You're either completely organized and productive and doing everything perfectly, or when something goes wrong, you failed. But does it have to be that cut and dry? No, I don't believe so. If we build strong foundations within ourselves, in our planning and organizational skills, then when something collapses, it doesn't mean everything is ruined. It simply means we need to rebuild, rejig, and reevaluate. Take a beat, take a breath, and figure out what still needs to get done. Because real life isn't perfect. Real people aren't perfect. And if someone is expecting perfection from you, maybe you need to spend less time with that voice, whether it's external or internal. Today I was out for a walk and passed by this bush. I don't even know what kind it is. I'll have to look it up. But last week it was brown. It looked completely dead. Today they were little green buds. Such a clear reminder that not everything is gone just because it looks lifeless for a moment. If we take a beat, if we give something space, there can still be growth. And I think that's true of our schedules too. 6 weeks ago, I started a training program to enhance my therapeutic skills and expand what I can offer my clients. When I signed up, I thought it would be a 10-week commitment. I looked at my schedule and evaluated that I had the time to dedicate this learning. I can do this. I can do 5 hours a week. I'll slot it into Fridays, maybe split it between Thursday night and Friday mornings if needed. Then I received another document saying I had 16 weeks to complete it. I almost choked. I was so confused, thinking they meant there were actually 16 weeks of training. This is a good reminder that you need to read the small print and don't assume. But as I started the course, I realized something quite quickly. The learning was actually divided into 6 parts. And once I got going, I discovered that the time I had set aside in the first place would be enough to complete each part in about a week. Meaning, in theory, I could finish the course in 6 weeks. Not 10, not 16. The creators had intentionally built in extra time to accommodate for people's real life, and with asynchronous learning, it meant it fit around someone's full-time work, family, and unexpected events that could occur. But here's what I've noticed over the years. When we're given more time, many people push things back, and they push them back again, and sometimes even again, until the deadline looms and stress kicks in. The kind of stress that is not good for us and does not lead us into the best learning or thinking, and really not the best use of our time. So here's the shift I want you to contemplate this week. When we commit to something, a course, a committee, a new experience, instead of adding it onto our week, what if we wove it into our 168 hours? There's a difference between adding something on and weaving something in. If you add it on, it sits on top of everything else. It can feel heavy. It competes with everything else that is happening in your life. If you weave it in, however, it becomes part of the fabric of your week. It has a place. It has dedicated time. It belongs. Because I wove this course into my schedule, I've been able to go deeper. I haven't had to rush. I haven't skipped the extra learning. I've engaged fully, without pressure, and learning has been an amazing addition to my therapeutic and coaching tool belt. So let me ask you something. Why do we take on things we don't actually have time for? Why do we say yes to projects and committees and learning opportunities, knowing full well we don't have those extra hours to give? I've done it many times. Sometimes it's optimism. Sometimes it's wanting to be part of something meaningful. Sometimes it's even guilt. But here's the truth, my truth. If you look at your 168 hours, and there truly isn't room to weave something in, maybe the answer is no. It's hard to say no to something you believe in, hard to say no to people you care about. But what is the use of taking something on that you can't do well? And then there's the other side. What happens when you say yes to something and you did have time for it, but then life happens, and the thing you had time for no longer fits in? Something dramatic occurs, and you need to step back. Well, that's where the grace comes in. That's where flexibility matters. Building flexibility into your schedule and the way you think ahead of time can make all the difference in the world when something unexpected happens. What are your options? Well, you can take a week off and handle what needs to be handled, and then eventually return. Maybe you only go back part-time, and maybe you don't go back at all. You don't need to beat yourself up about it. We are human. We are fallible. There are things we can do and things we can't, and it's okay. A very good reminder to me as I say these words out loud. So maybe the lesson from the bush with the tiny green buds is this. Not everything that looks dead is. Not every off week means you failed. Sometimes you just need to take a beat, look at your 168 hours, and ask yourself, is it woven in, or is it sitting on top of my life? And that's your invitation this week. Take one thing you've added onto your life and find a way to weave it in. Thank you so much for spending your time with me on this episode of Your Productivity Pulse. If today's conversation sparked a moment of action or reflection, I invite you to keep that momentum going. More practical strategies designed to enhance productivity, reduce stress, and weave balance back into your life can be found by joining my newsletter at banartexpression.com. Once there, just head over to your Productivity Pulse podcast page to sign up, or you can find the link in the show notes. Remember, intention plus accountability equals productivity. Until next time, keep listening to your pulse.